Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and don't look at your calendar, check your watch. I mean, I know we're not on Tuesday. We're Monday this week and Monday next week as well. Of course, tomorrow evening is Christmas Eve, so we wanted to be able to take Christmas Eve off and figured you probably weren't going to be worried about watching Tider Insider TV on Christmas Eve with your family. So we're coming to you on Monday evening, but we have a jam-packed show for you. And Rodney, we're going to start off with the portal, because I know you've been getting it a ton on TiderInsider.com. I've gotten it on my radio show. I've been getting social media and emails about it. When's Alabama going to get some players out of the portal? Oh, my, Alabama's lost 14, 15 players. When's Alabama? Well, this past week and weekend, Alabama's getting some players out of the portal.
Yes, they are. They've done a really fantastic job. I mean, 5 guys in the last week, really good players, you know, obviously, that they've got, starting out with Kelby Collins. Got a commitment from him last week.
Yeah, Kelby Collins. I'll run them down for you, Rodney, and then you can comment on them as we see them pop up. You mentioned Kelby Collins on Tuesday, then Cam Calhoun, the Utah defensive back, on Wednesday, and then on Saturday. That's when it really started happening. Miami wide receiver Isaiah Horton, boy, he could be huge for the Tide. Then Texas A&M offensive lineman Cam DeBoer, and the day was capped off with Colorado all-conference linebacker Nikhai Hill-Green. So the Crimson Tide now with 5 players from the portal, 21 signees, and now as we see these guys pop up on your screen, listen, this is the portal and NIL era. A number of these guys have played at 2 or 3 schools already, but kind of give us a rundown.
Yeah, I think obviously Kelby Collins from Gardendale, he's a guy that Alabama recruited really hard. Freddie Roach did a good job with him coming out of high school, but he decided to go to Florida. Now he comes back. He'll play for Freddie Roach on that defensive line. This guy, Gary, is a freshman. He had 23 tackles, had a nice freshman year. This past year, he only had 6 tackles, but he certainly has a lot of potential.
And we'll get to some other video from, let's go with the wide receiver, Horton from Miami, a guy that is big play potential, but he's also a big guy.
Yeah, he is. And I think that's something Alabama really needed at the wide receiver spot, especially with a guy like Caleb Odom that they had that's transferring out. But Isaiah Horton had 56 catches this past year, over 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's 6'4", he's 205 pounds, Gary. There you see him making a lot of tough catches, but he can get down the field, make plays down the field, make big plays. You'll see him here. This is something that I think Alabama really needed. Isaiah Horton, a huge pickup for this class of portal guys.
And when you talk about Nikhai Hill-Green, you're talking about a guy that made 82 tackles last year at Colorado. This is his 4th school, so he is mature physically and he's mature as a young man. I mean, he's been around. So you're bringing in a guy who's played a lot of football at several different schools and has made a lot of tackles. He's a proven commodity and a guy that can get after the passer, he can play the run, and he can even drop off into coverage. He's a full-service linebacker. Well,
I think when you look at him, inside backer is a real key position. He had, like you said, 82 tackles this past season at Colorado. He had 11 and a half, I think it was, tackles for losses. He had a couple of interceptions. 2 years ago, or 2023, he had 73 tackles for Charlotte. He started his career at Michigan. He had like 50 tackles in a couple of seasons there. So like you said, this will be his 4th school. But now, look, he's a guy that can come in, Gary, potentially and be a major contributor on the defense.
And Cam Calhoun also started his career at Michigan. He's a 6'1", 177-pound corner, so he's long. Transferred to Utah, had 21 tackles, 9 pass breakups, and 1 interception. So you're talking about another experienced guy at a position where, in the modern game of football, if you don't have corners, your defense is in trouble.
Especially guys with experience. You talked about his size. He does have length. He's a fantastic athlete, got a lot of range. Guy can cover a lot of ground. Made some big plays for Utah this year. But again, the experience that he's got, I think, is really vital.
And we don't have any video of Cam DeBoer because offensive linemen harder to get video of. But this is a big guy. This was a guy recruited by teams all over the country coming out of high school. Went to A&M. Does he project as an interior offensive lineman, probably guard?
Yeah, Cam
DeBoer.
Cam DeBoer. When you look at him, Gary, again, he's 6'4", he's 330 pounds. He probably is an interior guy. That's where he got most of his work at Texas A&M, most of his reps. He played a lot of football there at Texas A&M. He was from Humble, Texas. He was a 4-star rated player. I remember when he came out of high school, very highly touted. Alabama recruited him out of high school. So this is a guy, when you're talking about coming in and potentially maybe competing for Tyler Booker's spot at that left guard spot, I think he certainly has that potential.
All right, let's get to high school recruiting. Alabama will look to make a splash in the class of 2026 tomorrow when Gadsden City quarterback Zion Gibson makes his commitment, doing it on Christmas Eve day at 2 p.m. The commitment ceremony will be streamed live on X. The 4-star recruit will choose between Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, and Miami. He took visits to Alabama for games against Georgia as well as last month's Iron Bowl. So somebody's getting an early Christmas present tomorrow. And Rodney, you suspect that it'll be Alabama?
I think there's a really good chance. You know, Alabama fans have been saying, what about in-state recruiting? There's been a lot of talk about that. This guy's one of the top in-state players that in the state of Alabama for 2026. He again, he's long, he's athletic, like a lot of these corners that Alabama's getting, 6'1", around that. You mentioned the 4 schools there. I like Alabama right now.
All right, you mentioned in-state recruiting. It did not go great in 2024, at least on paper. Now, Alabama's got the second-rated recruiting class in the country, so you have to put it in context. They had a great recruiting year. But in-state, something that we've rarely seen, if ever. The top 10 in-state recruits for 2024, according to On3's recruitment, when they take all the services and add them up, 8 of the top 10 in the state signed with Auburn. The other 2, Naheem Alford, who signed with Oregon, and Zion Grady, who was once committed to Alabama, signed with Ohio State. That means Alabama went 0 for 10 in-state with the top 10 players. Now, they did sign 2 in-state players, offensive lineman Micah DeBoer and Mal Waldrop. Rodney, a second-rated recruiting class, so it's really a good class. But over the long haul, if you're Alabama, you're going to have to do a better job of signing in-state players, correct?
Yeah, they are. But also let's look at it too. Number one is Alford never considered really Alabama seriously, even when Nick Saban was here. Okay, so DeBoer, they were behind on their relationships when they came in with these guys in the state. Obviously, Hugh Freeze, that staff had an opportunity to really build those. But another thing is, too, when you evaluate players, you ask yourself, do they fit your system? And again, I'm not sure that all of these guys in that top 10 are guys that Alabama would have wanted to take necessarily. Doesn't mean they're not bad, they're not good players. Maybe they fit better somewhere else. But I do think, yes, Gary, I think moving forward, Alabama certainly would like to recruit and get the best players out of the state that they feel like are fits for this program.
Yeah, in the NIL era, I don't know how much it means, but Alabama's got off to a great start in 2027 with Jabarius Garrar and Barack Willis already committed to the top players in 2027. Again, commitments don't mean what they once did. But and again, you alluded to it. For this past recruiting cycle, relationships, Alabama on the West Coast and in California, and you saw that reflected in the signing class.
They signed 7 out of California. Yeah. They signed the top 2 players out of California. They signed the number 1 player in Texas. They signed the number 1 player in Florida. When you're talking about hotbeds for recruiting prospects, those 3 are the best.
All right, it's time now for Coach Talk. And another big get from the transfer portal was one that could have been going somewhere else. Quarterback Jaylen Mbakwe, 1 week ago, appeared set to leave the portal and go somewhere else. He reportedly had interest from another SEC program that had offered a lot of money, but he wound up pulling his name out and staying in Alabama, and he may wind up playing some wide receiver as soon as this game against Michigan in the bowl game. Of course, he'll be at cornerback as well and could factor in the kick return game and punt return game. Like Colorado two-way star Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy last week, Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer says Mbakwe's potential to play on both sides of the football is there. He's a tremendous athlete, and like I said, we could see him on offense as soon as the ReliaQuest Bowl.
You know, a lot of guys, especially defensive guys, I know for me, the trust of putting the ball in their hands on a punt return, you know, which is a lot of people running at you, you know, making people miss, a lot of people converging on you all at once. Never really have felt, you know, concerned about his ball security, right? Let's all knock on wood together on that one, okay? But you know, he just got that trust factor that you have with him, you know, and it goes back to his high school days. And, you know, so you're always looking at guys that can help you in the football field one way or another.
And if Jaylen is ready to play wide receiver in the bowl game against Michigan, it could help because Alabama's shorthanded at wide receiver particularly, but they've lost 15 players to the transfer portal, including wide receivers Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Caleb Odom, and Emmanuel Henderson. So that's a reason that he may be looked at receiver sooner rather than later. Real quick thought, Rodney, on the players in the portal that won't be available for the bowl game. So you're going to have your depth is going to be affected, and some of these guys are starters too, and maybe a chance to look at some young guys in this game.
And you've got some injuries. I think you're going to have 8 guys that potentially could miss this game. So, yeah, you could look. And you could see Mbakwe at receiver in this game. You could see him both ways. You don't know. But one good thing that we do know, guys like Tyler Booker, Jalen Milroe, Jahad Campbell, those guys are going to play.
Proctor, left tackle, banged up. Is there a chance, though, he could play in the game?
There is a chance. Talking to some people, Gary, I know there's been some reports that he was going to be out, but I think there certainly is. I think he does need surgery after the season, but I think there is a good chance he could play in this game.
All right, great segment, Rodney. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, Christy Curry's team made a statement to the women's college basketball world this past week in West Palm Beach, Florida. We'll have more on that. And Alabama men's basketball moved up a spot in the AP poll after a couple of more wins. They're at number 5 now. The SEC just dominates. They got 10 teams in the top 25, 4 in the top 6. We'll have that story coming up. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call because we want to hear from you in just a little bit. This is Tider Insider Television, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to TITV on a Monday evening, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Let's talk basketball. Alabama had a bad defensive performance in North Dakota last Wednesday. That was a homecoming game for Grant Nelson, who played at North Dakota State, but they played North Dakota. They might want to recruit Trayson Eaglestaff from North Dakota. He led them up for 40, and Alabama really lucky to get out of there with a win. But they bounced back yesterday on Sunday against Kent State with one of their better defensive performances of the season, as they kept Kent State in the 50s yesterday. 81-54 was the final. Alabama didn't look great on offense, but Kent State's a really good defensive team, and they slow you down. Alabama still needs to shoot the 3 better. That's something that once they get into SEC play, they're going to need to do better. But still, Mark Sears had 16 to lead 11 players that scored, 10 of them in the first half, as Nate Oates continues to play a lot of people. Of course, now they're winding down with the non-conference, and they'll play their final one on next Saturday against South Dakota State, and then it's into SEC play. Alabama is up to number 5 this week in the AP poll. Of course, 4 of the top 6 are from the SEC, 5 of the top 10, and 10 teams total in the top 25. That is amazing. Alabama women's basketball is rolling too. They went down to the West Palm Beach Classic and got a huge win over Michigan State, who was ranked number 15. 82-67 on Friday. It was the first win over a ranked team this season. Alabama then followed that up with a nice win over a good Richmond team on the weekend as well. So Alabama has just 1 loss, and they are ranked 20th in the AP poll, and they're looking like they have a chance not just to be competitive in the SEC, but maybe battle for a conference championship. This is a really good basketball team. All right, that's our basketball report. Still to come, though, on TITV. See which Bama players made a big impact in the NFL in our Bama in the NFL segment. And up next, phone lines are open at 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call, 205-348-9882. We want to hear from you. Get that phone line ringing. Tider Insider TV. We'll be right back. Bama in the NFL, obviously this is just a sampling because you can't keep up with them all. But Calvin Ridley, look at him. Still got the ability to separate from the defender. That is a 38-yard touchdown. Titans lost to the Colts, but he had 3 receptions for 78 yards. Jameson Williams, you talk about ability to separate from a defender. I mean, this guy can fly. That's an 81-yard touchdown there. He had a huge game for the Lions as they keep rolling. Bryce Young has turned it around, and now the Carolina Panthers are seeing what we saw here at Alabama. Bryce Young is really good. They got a win in overtime over the Cardinals yesterday, 36-30. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for another. Look at that throw, Rodney. That's a good throw. Tua and the Dolphins got it done against the 49ers. Tua 22-34 with 215 yards, and this touchdown to Tyreek Hill, which was the 100th of his career. So Bama in the NFL, much more than this. You can find it every Sunday night on my WVUA 23 Facebook page. I have a Bama in the NFL report. All right, welcome back with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's get on the phone lines. Sammy is first up in Walker County. Hey, Sammy.
A Merry Christmas to Gary, to
Go,
you
Sammy.
and to Rodney and the families. And
All right, Rodney, I'm
hope y'all
cutting
have
out
a
of my
good one.
IP. Did you hear the question?
Oh, he said Merry Christmas.
Oh,
He's
Merry
asking
Christmas.
the
I've
question.
lost contact. Go ahead and take that.
Gary and Rodney, I just wish for the preparation for the bowl game for Alabama to be focused, no penalties, no mistakes, and finish out their year right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, hey, Sammy, look, I think that's what they'd like to do. I know you were kind of talking about the mindset of this team. And again, that's something we're going to find out. I know that they've had good preparation for this. I know that they certainly, the focus is to win the game. You've got a lot of the leaders playing in this game that maybe could have opted out, but they didn't, Gary. And I think that's a really good sign.
All right, thanks for that phone call. Let's go and get to our email question of the day, and it's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. All right, did you guys enjoy the college football playoff games from Terry in Northport? It's a good question because we talked a lot about it on the radio with Rodney this morning. I'm going to say that I didn't enjoy them, but I have to be honest with you. It didn't feel like, to me, what a college football playoff is supposed to feel like. I think these are almost like playing games to me. Now we're down to 8. I think I'm going to enjoy them more going forward as we get into the bowl games and the semifinals. But I could have kind of taken them or leaving them. And now part of that, Rodney, obviously has to do with the fact that Alabama wasn't in it. But I didn't get too excited about them.
You know, I really felt like, Gary, with these games being at home sites, that they would be a little bit more. I just didn't quite get the feel of college football in these games for some reason. Again, there was a lot of blowouts. Hey, look, SMU, not really going to get into that part of it. But, Gary, they didn't look like they were ready for the big stage.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they just got destroyed. Indiana got destroyed by Notre Dame. Now, Tennessee got destroyed, too, by Ohio State. The only real competitive game was Texas and Clemson. That was it. That was a good game.
Clemson showed a lot of mental toughness coming back in that game.
And they've got it. Dabo has a tough football team. All right, we got phone lines that are wide open right now. That's rare. I know it's Monday night, so maybe we're throwing you off. But 205-348-9882. You can go ahead and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. That number again, 205-348-9882. There's the email address, TITV@WVUA23.com. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV on a Monday night. We'll be back. Well, after a fantastic 2024 season, Nick Dunlap won the 2024 Arnold Palmer PGA Tour Rookie of the Year award last week. The 20-year-old made history during his rookie campaign, becoming the first player ever in the history of professional golf to win both as an amateur and as a pro in the same season. The former Alabama Crimson Tide standout burst onto the scene in January, winning the American Express out in California. And he then turned professional and won the Barracuda Championship in July. That is a double to be proud of. Big things are expected for Nick Dunlap, who's still just 20 years old. How about that? All right, welcome back to TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's go out on the phone lines and talk with Tommy over in Romulus. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
I want to know how the offensive line going to hold up against the defenses. We got one offensive lineman had surgery, and our receiver room is kind of thin out.
Yeah, it really is. Well, first of all, look, I think Michigan's had some guys opt out too. Fortunately, Mason Graham, a great defensive lineman. Yeah, he won't be playing, Tommy, so that kind of evens things out a little bit. But look, I think Caden Proctor might play. Don't know that he will. I know he's got the shoulder issue. It's going to need surgery. If he doesn't, you might see Elijah Pritchett at left tackle, which we've seen him start there before. Of course, Booker at left guard, and then Brailsford and Roberts and Wilkin-Formby at the right tackle spot. Now, they could also bump Tyler Booker, who we've seen start a game at left tackle.
Right.
You could put Vandermark in there at left guard, and then the rest of them basically the same. Maybe keep Pritchett at right tackle, Wilkin-Formby. So, again, I think they've got some options there, Tommy. Might not look as bad as some people think.
All right. Thanks for the phone call. We got an email now. Is that right, Sam? Yeah, we got an email question that we're going to get to. Let's take a look at it. And it is from Marvin in Tuscaloosa. How many quarterbacks will Alabama have next season? And we're going to talk, I assume he's talking about scholarship quarterbacks, Rodney. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is, because we don't really know. Obviously, you got Ty Simpson. Certainly, we expect him back. Austin Mack, we expect him back. You've got the true freshman, Keon Russell, coming in. So that's 3. I think, Gary, the question is, after spring, do you decide to take another quarterback, maybe as a depth type guy, to make sure you have 4 just in case there's an emergency? And again, I think that's certainly possible.
All right, we're going to get to one more email question before we have to get to the break here on this holiday edition of TITV. And it is from Patrick and Hoover. Do you expect Justin Jefferson to return for another year? That's the linebacker who has played really, really well. It's kind of the third linebacker. Then when Deontay Lawson went down, he became the starter.
Well, because of the junior college rule, Diego Pavia.
Yeah, and that applies to everybody now. Yeah.
It's opened it up for all these former junior college players. So for Justin Jefferson, that might open the door for him to come back, which would be really big.
Yeah, it certainly will if he wants to, because the NCAA went ahead today. Now, they're still appealing Diego Pavia, but for this year, if you play junior college football, you get an extra year of college-ability. And you would think, even though he's a really good player and might have some NFL ambition, that coming back another year at Alabama might be good for him.
I think it's really good. Certainly great for Alabama.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Thanks for the phone calls and emails. Still to come on TITV, Keon Russell keeps taking home hardware, and it's of the highest variety for high school quarterbacks. Plus, further evidence that Keon Russell is going to be special. We'll jump into that full speed. We'll have that next right here on TITV. More evidence that Keon Russell has a chance to be special. Last year, the Alabama quarterback commit was named the Maxwell National High School Player of the Year. That year he had at Duncanville, Texas, 4,177 yards and 55 touchdowns with just 5 picks. Russell is the third Alabama recruit and signee to win the Maxwell Award, joining Bryce Young and Derrick Henry. And you know what they did, Rodney? They went on to win the Heisman Trophy as well. So maybe he'll be the third Maxwell and Heisman winner for the Crimson Tide. I know you really like him as a quarterback.
I really do. I mean, when you look at his height, his arm, all of the... Gary, look, he played at a 2-time state champion in Texas, Duncanville, one of the elite programs, not only in the state of Texas, but in the country, and against top competition. So I'm really excited about his future.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV. Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll be on again next week on Monday prior to New Year's Eve, and we'll preview Alabama and Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl. All right, they got a replay tonight at 10:30. You can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. There's Charles Kelly, who was an assistant at Alabama, is now the head coach at Jacksonville State. I like Charles Kelly a lot. Good luck to him. Good night, everybody.